Lily and her younger brother Luke moved to a small countryside town after their grandmother passed away. They had no parents left, so the old farmhouse was the only place they could live. The house stood alone near a forest with broken windows and dusty walls. When they arrived, the air smelled old and strange. The floor creaked with every step, and cobwebs hung in the corners. The neighbors warned them, "Don't stay here after dark. Your grandmother's house is not safe." But Lily smiled politely and didn't believe them. She thought old people in villages just liked ghost stories. She wanted a quiet, simple life, to fix the house and maybe find some peace. Luke, only 15, was playful and curious. He kept running around exploring every room. But when he reached the basement door, he stopped. It was locked, and strange marks were carved around it. "Why is this door locked?" Luke asked. Lily shrugged. Maybe Grandma kept things she didn't want anyone to touch. But when she looked closer, she saw something carved into the wood, symbols she couldn't understand. A chill ran down her spine for a second. She told Luke to leave it alone, and they went upstairs. That night, when the wind blew through the broken windows, Lily thought she heard a faint whisper coming from the basement, soft, slow, and calling her name. She tried to ignore it, but her heart knew something in that house was not sleeping. The next morning, Lily woke up early and decided to clean the house. Dust filled every corner and spider webs covered the ceiling. Luke helped her, but his mind kept going back to the basement door. While sweeping the hallway, he said, "Lily, I think there's something behind that door. Maybe Grandma left something valuable." Lily frowned. "Stop thinking about that, Luke. Grandma said some things must stay closed." But Luke didn't stop. He went down the basement stairs and touched the door again. The wood felt cold, like ice, even though it was a warm day. He pressed his ear against it and thought he heard a faint sound, like someone breathing slowly on the other side. He stepped back, feeling a little scared, but curiosity pulled him closer again. "Maybe it's just the wind," he whispered to himself. When Lily came downstairs, she saw him staring at the door and scolded him. "Luke, I told you to leave it alone." Luke looked embarrassed and went back upstairs. But the strange carvings on the door stayed in his mind. He couldn't stop thinking about them, the way they looked like moving lines in the dim light. That night, as they ate dinner, the wind outside grew louder. The old door creaked as if something inside was pushing from behind. Lily and Luke froze for a moment, staring toward the basement. Then the sound stopped. The house fell silent again, but both of them knew it wasn't just the wind. That night, everything was quiet. The moonlight slipped through the old windows and painted silver lines on the wooden floor. Lily was trying to sleep, but something felt strange in the air, heavy and cold. Suddenly, she heard a faint sound, a soft whisper coming from below. "Lily." Her eyes opened wide. She sat up and listened carefully. Again, she heard it slow, almost like someone calling her name from the basement. She got out of bed and checked Luke's room. He wasn't there. The window was open, and the night wind blew the curtains softly. Her heart started to beat faster. "Luke," she called. There was no answer. She grabbed a flashlight and walked downstairs. The whole house was silent except for the ticking of an old clock. When she reached the bottom of the stairs, she saw Luke standing near the basement door, barefoot, still, his eyes half open. "Luke," she said loudly. He didn't move. He was sleepwalking. His hand was slowly reaching toward the door handle. Lily ran and pulled him back. The moment she touched him, he gasped and woke up suddenly. "Lily, what happened?" he asked, confused. "You were sleepwalking," she said. "You were trying to open the door." Luke looked at the basement door in shock. I heard someone calling me." A man's voice. Lily's hands trembled. "There's no one here, Luke. It's just us." But deep down, she knew the whisper she heard wasn't just in her mind. Someone or something was trying to come out. The next morning, Lily tried to act normal. She made breakfast and told Luke not to worry about what happened last night. But she could still see fear in his eyes. While cleaning the hallway near the basement, Luke noticed a loose wooden step. When he pushed it aside, he found something hidden underneath, a small wooden box, wrapped in old black cloth. "Lily, come here," he shouted. Lily came running and froze when she saw it. The box was covered in strange symbols, the same ones carved on the basement door. The wood looked burned at the edges, as if someone had tried to destroy it before. Luke touched the box lightly. It felt cold, almost alive. "Maybe it's Grandma's old jewelry," he said. Lily shook her head quickly. "No, Luke. Don't touch it." She remembered something from her childhood, her grandmother's voice saying softly, "Never touch what was buried." Lily picked up the box carefully with a piece of cloth and placed it on the table. There was no key, no lock, just those strange marks. Luke stared at it all morning, unable to look away. It was as if the box was calling to him silently. That night, as the wind howled outside, Lily thought she heard soft scratching sounds, like fingernails on wood coming from the box. She covered her ears and whispered to herself, "It's just my imagination. It's just the wind." But deep inside, she knew something inside that box wanted to get out. The next evening, the house was quiet. Lily sat near the fireplace, trying to read her grandmother's old letters, but she couldn't stop glancing at the wooden box on the table. It seemed darker than before, as if shadows were moving across its surface. Luke came downstairs and stared at the box again. His face looked pale and his eyes were tired. "Lily, I had a dream," he said softly. "Someone was inside that box. He said he just wants to be free." Lily stood up quickly. "Don't say that, Luke. It's not real. It's dangerous." But Luke stepped closer. "What if Grandma trapped someone innocent in there?" Lily grabbed his arm. "Please don't touch it, Luke." He looked at her, then at the box, and before she could stop him, he reached out and placed his hand on it. The moment his fingers touched the wood, a loud thump echoed through the house. The lights flickered and the floor trembled slightly. Luke froze in place. His eyes went wide and his hand wouldn't move. "Luke!" Lily shouted, shaking him. He blinked slowly and pulled his hand back. For a few seconds, everything was silent. Then a deep whisper filled the air, a voice neither of them had ever heard before. "You shouldn't have touched it," it said. The candles blew out. The room went dark. Lily held Luke tightly, but his skin felt cold, colder than the night air. When she looked into his eyes, they were no longer the same. Something was inside him now. Since that night, Luke was not the same. He hardly spoke anymore, and when he did, his voice sounded deeper, slower, almost like someone else was speaking through him. Lily tried to ask if he was okay, but he just stared at her with blank eyes. Sometimes, she saw him smiling to himself when no one was around, a strange, cold smile. At night, he didn't sleep. Lily could hear him walking around the house, whispering words she didn't understand. One night, she quietly followed him. He walked straight to the basement door and placed his hand on it. "Let me out," Luke whispered. But it wasn't really his voice. It was older, darker. Lily covered her mouth in fear. The next morning, she found muddy footprints leading from the basement to Luke's room. There were also handprints on the wall, large, black, and not shaped like Luke's hands. When she asked him about it, he just smiled and said, "I don't remember." Later that day, she noticed strange symbols appearing on the mirrors and windows, the same symbols that were carved on the box. The air inside the house felt heavy now. Doors opened and closed by themselves. Lily started hearing whispers when she was alone, soft words that said her name again and again. One evening, as she passed Luke's room, she saw him sitting on the floor, drawing the same strange symbols using ashes from the fireplace. "Luke, stop it," she cried. He looked up slowly, his eyes glowing faintly red. He says it's not over, Luke said quietly. Lily backed away, her heart beating fast. Whatever came out of that box was now living inside her brother. The next morning, Lily searched the whole house, desperate to find answers. She believed her grandmother must have known something about the box and the strange spirit. After hours of searching, she found an old, dusty wooden chest under her grandmother's bed. Inside were yellowed papers, family photos, and a small leather diary tied with a red string. On the first page, written in shaky handwriting, were the words, "To whoever finds this, never open the box." Lily's hands shook as she turned the pages. The diary told a dark story. Many years ago, a man named Thomas Gray had lived on the same land. He was cruel and greedy, and after his death, people said his spirit refused to leave. He cursed the place, saying that one day he would return through the hands of the curious. Lily read about how her grandmother discovered the box buried near the old well and sealed it using a protection spell taught by the town's priest. The diary said that if the box was ever touched, the spirit would take over the nearest soul and never let go. Tears filled Lily's eyes. "Oh no, Luke," she whispered. Just then, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned slowly. Luke was standing there, watching her. "What are you reading?" he asked, his voice calm but strange. "Nothing, Luke." "Go back to your room," she said, trying to hide the diary. But he smiled, that same cold smile. "You can't stop him now, Lily. He said your grandmother tried and failed." The pages of the diary began to flip by themselves. The candles in the room flickered. The air turned icy cold. Lily clutched the diary to her chest. It was the only thing that could help her now. She had to find a way to send the spirit back before it was too late. Lily spent the whole day reading the last pages of her grandmother's diary. It explained how to send the spirit back, but the ritual had to be done at midnight, when the spirit was strongest. She needed fire, salt, a cross, and the words written in Latin at the end of the diary. As the clock struck 12, the house went dark on its own. The air turned heavy, and the wind outside began to howl. Lily lit a single candle and went down to the basement. Her hands were shaking, but she forced herself to keep going. Luke was already there, standing near the locked door. He looked different now. His eyes were completely black. His voice echoed strangely when he spoke. "You can't stop me, Lily. He's already part of me." Lily's tears fell, but she held up the diary. "I'm not talking to you, Luke. I'm talking to him." She sprinkled salt in a circle around herself and started reading the Latin words out loud. The walls began to shake. The candlelight flickered wildly. A dark shadow rose behind Luke, tall and twisted, whispering angrily. "Stop!" Luke shouted, his voice mixed with another deeper one. The shadow rushed toward her, but the salt burned bright, keeping it back. Lily kept reading louder and louder, even as her voice broke with fear. Suddenly, Luke screamed in pain. His body lifted off the ground, his arms shaking violently. The dark shadow tried to escape through him, but Lily finished the last line of the chant. With a loud scream, the shadow burst into smoke. The box on the table cracked open and caught fire, glowing with a strange red light before turning into ashes. Luke fell to the floor, motionless. The whole house went silent, no wind, no whisper, no sound. Lily dropped to her knees beside her brother, crying, "Please, Luke, come back to me." For a long moment, he didn't move. Then, slowly, he opened his eyes, and they were blue again. When the first light of morning touched the windows, the house finally felt calm. The air that once felt heavy and dark now felt still and quiet. The nightmare seemed to be over. Lily sat beside Luke, who was still weak and pale. He didn't remember much, only flashes of fire, voices, and pain. She didn't tell him everything. She didn't want him to feel the horror she saw. They both went outside for the first time in days. The sunrise painted the sky orange and gold. The farmhouse looked old but peaceful again. Birds were singing. For a moment, it almost felt like home. Lily carried the ashes of the burned box in a small jar. Her grandmother's diary said the spirit could never be destroyed, only sealed away. So, Lily walked deep into the woods behind the house, where the air was cool and the ground was soft. There, she dug a hole beneath an old oak tree and buried the ashes. She whispered softly, "Stay asleep forever." Then she covered the hole and placed a small cross on top. When she turned back, Luke was standing at the edge of the trees, smiling weakly. "Is it over now?" he asked. Lily nodded, though deep down, she wasn't sure. They packed their things and locked the farmhouse door. As they drove away, Lily looked back one last time. The house stood quiet in the sunlight, but as the wind passed through the open window, she heard it, a soft whisper carried on the breeze. "You shouldn't have touched it." Lily's eyes widened, and she gripped the steering wheel tighter. The whisper faded slowly into the distance. The house was silent again, but the curse was not gone. It was only waiting,